Me. I'm starting with the class. Fine. So today we'll start with the receiver section of the communication system. Now, so far what we have studied the sampling theorem, quantization, encoding, and we have uh, designed or converted analog signal into binary forms or bit form, and then we have used representation like line codes to represent these binary bits. Now the thing is, we are transmitting this bit. Either we can transmit it one bit at a time, or two bit at a time, or three, 4 bit at a time, or else what we can do, we can send them as a symbol. So now whatever we are doing with either we are sending it as a 1 bit or 2 bit or 3 bit or 4 bit, we are sending them as pulse. Now the job of the receiver is to detect this pulse so that we can if we can detect this pulse perfectly, then we can get what is the output, whether it is 0 or whether it is 1. So we'll start with this receiver section, and then we will see how we can optimize the receiver side, that we can detect the pulse correctly. Okay, so today we will start with this match filter. Okay, so far I think there is no problem. Fine. So we can transmit one bit at a time. So this can be a pulse. If I'm transmitting a bit 1, then the pulse will be like this. If I'm transmitting 0, then the pulse will be um, the opposite of this one, or in either way I am transmitting as plus a or minus a. So here what I have represented one bit as plus a. So if I want to transmit 0, then it can be represented as minus a. Next, today we'll start see a bit of PAM system, and the main focus will be of this match filter. How we are designing this match filter, and what will be the impulse response of this match filter, so that we can understand or we can estimate this pulse shape correctly in the receiver side. So we'll derive this impulse response of this match filter, and we'll little bit about intersymbol interference. Next day we'll elaborately discuss about intersymbol interference. Fine. So now if I am transmitting this one bit at a time, now suppose this is the first bit, and then we can send the second bit. So what will happen when you are transmitting through a channel, it gets corrupted by a noise. This portion gets corrupted by a noise, and the shape differs. Now what happens if I am transmitting two bit one after another, then they can overlap in this region. This overlap is known as intersymbol interference. So both these symbols, that means this one bit, simultaneous two bits, are interfering with each other, and this is known as the intersymbol interference. That means interference between two symbols is known as intersymbol interference. Okay, so far any problem? Please respond. Please respond in chat. Okay, which portion? Which portion? Okay, intersymbol. Now see here I am transmitting this bit. This is one bit, and suppose I am transmitting this is one. I am transmitting one in this time period, and say from time period TB to 2 TB, I am transmitting a 0. That means I am sending 1. Then after that I am sending a 0. So that means I am transmitting a plus a pulse, and then I am transmitting a minus a pulse. So when these two symbols goes through a channel, they get corrupted. Okay, and they seems to take a shape like this. This is the shape of plus a pulse after the channel output, and this is the shape of 0 pulse after the channel output. Now what happens in intersymbol interference, due to noise in the channel portion, these two pulses gets overlap with each other, or they start interfering with each other. That means one interferes with 0, a 0 interferes with 1. That means we cannot correctly get what is, or correctly detect 1 or 0 separately. This is known as intersymbol interference. We'll discuss this portion elaborately in next class. So today our focus will be only on this match filtering, right? So let me proceed. So I hope in a lame version you are clear about intersymbol interference. Please. Okay, so let's proceed. Okay, so transmission of one bit, that means that already I have said. Now here we will discuss about two level digital pulse amplitude modulation. Now what does that means? That means we are using two levels. Two levels means that means either 0 or 1. That means I am transmitting one bit at a time. So that's why we have only two levels, 0 and 1. And why it is called pulse amplitude modulation? So whatever we are representing, say we are representing 0 or we are representing 1, we are representing using a sinusoidal pulse. Here it is a rectangular pulse. Now I think you will remember how we represent a square pulse using a Fourier series. We can use multiple harmonics of sinusoidal signal to represent a square pulse. So here we are sending square pulses to indicate 1 or 0. That means plus a or minus a. So that is known as pulse amplitude modulation. So this line, transmission on communication channels is analog, means though we are transmitting 0 or 1, but that 0 or 1 is represented as a analog signal. Okay, either a square pulse or a rectangular pulse. Clear? Any problem so far? Okay, Vivek, which portion? Okay, so let me show you the diagram, then you can understand. See, this is a 0 bit. It is been transmitted to the additive channel noise. First sentence of the PPT. Okay. Transmission on communication channels in analog. Now see, this zero bit is represented using a square pulse, right? So though we are telling that we are sending digital pulses or digital bits, these digital bits actually is transmitted as an analog signal. Why? Because the square pulse is a sinusoidal pulse. That's why what we say transmission on communication channel is analog. That means when the signal is going through this channel, that signal is analog. So up till this portion in the input side, it is converted into bits, but these bits are transmitted through the channel as an analog signal. That's why it is known as the channels. When it is transmitted through the channels, the signal is analog. Okay, clear? Okay. So now see, when I am transmitting, say I am transmitting 0, that means I am representing it as minus a, and this minus a is now transmitted through a channel. That channel can be wireless or wired. Now when suppose this channel adds a noise, which is additive noise, means it is adding noise to the incoming signal. So it is adding a noise, and when it is adding a noise in the receiver part, we are receiving a signal like this one. Okay, now if we compare these two signals, the transmitted one and the received one, what we see that it is corrupted. This signal doesn't look like the signal that we have transmitted. Now, can we determine whether from this signal that whether it is 0 or 1? Is it possible? It is not possible. Similarly, if I transmit bit 1, here I am transmitting bit 1 through this additive channel noise, it in this channel noise is added with this signal, and in the receiver side we may get a signal like this. So from these two signals, can we determine which one is 1, which one is 0? It is very difficult to uh, determine which is 1 bit, which is 0 bit, because from this signal we have to convert this into 0 or 1. So from this noisy signal we cannot determine which portion is 1 or which portion is 0. That means what we need to do, we have to optimize our receiver in such a way that we can again determine or represent these pulses or reshape these pulses in this form, right? So how to decide? We cannot decide. So that means we have to optimize our receiver. So that is done by the match filter. So understood so far? Any issues? Done by the receiver match filter, that we'll study how it is done, optimization done by the match filter, and how match filter does, will derive the equations. Okay. Okay, so let me proceed to the next slide. Fine. Okay, so how we design our communication channel? So first we need to understand what is communication channel. So communication channel is a big subject in itself. There can be different types of communication channel, but here what we'll take or we'll decide or assume our communication channel as LTI channel, or linear time invariant channel. Fine. I hope you all know what is LTI system or LTI channel. LTI system, you know, linear time invariant system, right? And we'll also assume that this channel, the impulse response of this channel, we'll assume it as a pulse. Instead of an impulse, we'll assume it as a pulse. Fine, like this. We'll not assume that this LTI system generates an impulse, but it generates a pulse of a width of TH. Clear about this portion? What I am assuming this channel as an LTI system, and I'm assuming that the impulse response of this communication channel is not an impulse but a pulse of width th and height 1. Clear so far? Okay, so through this channel what I'm transmitting either 1 or 0, right? And we am assuming that this impulse response is less than the width of the bit, and we are getting a pulse like this. Okay, now from this pulse we need to approximate, or we need to determine whether whether 0 has been sent or a 1 has been sent, and that is decided by the match filter. So we'll study about the match filter in a time little while. Okay, so first let us design this digital two-level PAM system, and then we'll move on to this match filter. So now we are drawing the transmitter side of the PAM system. Now this PAM system means, this PAM, what it does, it generates pulses of minus A or minus A or plus A, depending upon the bits that are coming. Now from where these bits are coming? These bits are coming after sampling, quantization, and coding part. So that means sampling, quantization is already been done, and now these bits 0, 0, 1, 0, whatever it may be, it is coming to this PAM block, and this PAM block is generating either minus A or plus A, which has a width of TB. Clear? Respond. Okay, so after that means now the output here is square pulses, either voltage level minus A or plus A. That means this bits 0, 1, say suppose 0, 1, I am sending 0, 1. That means output of this, yes, here clock frequency and bit rate are same, Deeprajit. Okay, so here suppose I am sending 0, 1. That means output of this PAM will be 0, will be taking a voltage level of minus A, and 1 will be taking a voltage level of plus A, right? Each generated at a say bit rate of TB or a width of TB. Now I have to give a shape or a square shape to this voltage levels. So now I send this output to a pulse shaper, right? So now this minus a or plus a is sending to a pulse shaper, and output of this pulse shaper are square pulses. That means if I am sending 0 1, suppose here I am sending 0 1, here the output will be minus a plus a, and here what we'll get, here we'll get a 0, a square wave of minus a voltage and a square wave of plus a voltage, right? Now who this nonsense is? Mahatma Gandhi? Anyway, we'll see it too later. Okay, so now this is our signal that I am going to transmit. Now this is the signal S of t which I am going to transmit through the channel. So this is the channel, and in this channel what happens, a noise is added with this S of t. That means the signal that I am sending of minus a plus a, here noise is added, and I am considering this known as additive white Gaussian noise. Now what is additive white Gaussian noise? In the additive white Gaussian noise, all the frequencies components in the noise bandwidth has the same frequency level. That means it remains flat. So that is very easy to calculate for the communication engineer. That's why we always consider AWGN noise, because it always takes all the frequency components of the noise. Fine. So what I am doing in the transmitter part, I am sending bits. The bits is converted into certain voltage levels. That voltage levels is being sent or converted into pulse shaping, or the pulse are shaped. So this is the signal S of t, which is now sent through the channel, and in the channel noise is added, and after that in the receiver portion we need to optimize, or we need to decide what is the actual pulse. That means the pulses sent by S of t is received in the receiver part, and the match filter determines which is the what is the shape of that pulse. So match filter is used to understand what is the shape of that pulse. Okay, so Pratik has asked what is AWGN. Now the full form of AWGN is additive white Gaussian noise. Now what is white Gaussian noise? You know what is the shape of the Gaussian signal. Now Gaussian signals has a very flat shape. Now additive white Gaussian now why the name comes white? You know, white color contains all the colors inside it. So similarly, when we considered a noise as a, yes, right, bell shape. So here additive white Gaussian noise, why white? Because white contains all the frequency components of the color. If you all know VibGear, if you add all the colors of VibGear, then it becomes white color. So white noise, because we are considering all the components, all the frequency components of noise present in additive white Gaussian noise. That means I am not excluding any particular frequency component, but I am adding all the frequency component of noise present there. So that's why additive means it is adding, white means all frequency component, and Gaussian because it, when we plot it, we get a structure like a bell shape or a flat structure. So, and it is a noise component. So that's why additive white Gaussian noise. Clear? I hope it is clear. Okay. So after the noise is added, then we are sending it to a match filter. Now this match filter is the important portion that we are going to derive what is the value of this h of t. What should be the value of this h of t, so that y of t assumes the same pulse which is sent by s of t, right? So today our job is to design or find the value of this h of t, so that this y of t resembles the pulse shape of this s of t. Okay, so after that we sample each pulses at a rate of tb, because we are sending it as a or sampling it at a rate of TB. So here also we sample it at a rate of TB. Then we send it to a decision maker block where the threshold level is set, and then we decide whether the pulse is a 1 or 0, then we get this output 1 or 0. So this is what the system is, and the main important focus is this match filter. So we'll start with the match filter. Okay, so the main problem is I am sending this square pulse, but when it is sent through a channel, it gets corrupted and it gets a distorted shape in the receiver. So the match filter, what it does, it reshapes it from the, or it removes the distortion and brings out the actual square pulse. So what should be the impulse response of this match filter? That is our problem to design. So we will design now this match filter. uh, Threshold, yes, it is predefined. It has a formula. It has a formula. It has a probabilistic formula that depends. Okay, so we'll decide. We'll do it when we'll do a practical on it. We'll show you. Okay, why does it corrupted? Karishma has asked, why does it get corrupted? Now, uh, suppose for an example, you are singing a song and someone starts shouting in between the song. The audience, what he hears the song as well as the shouting. So that means the audience is getting a signal or getting to hear something which is being added with a noise. So that's why the signal gets corrupted. Okay, so whatever, suppose I am telling something and I have made you mute. Why I made you mute? All your audios are mute, because if I uh, unmute you all the noises will come. That's why I have made you mute. So that you are, when you will start talking, then it becomes a noise. Okay, so I hope it is clear why it is noise. Okay, so now the design is, match filter is a linear filter, and its job is to maximize the signal to noise ratio. Now what is signal to noise ratio? Signal to noise ratio means signal power divided by noise power, and this signal power divided by noise power. So if I want a good system, then the signal power should be highest and the noise power should be not zero, but say at a minimum value. So we need to maximize this. That means a match filter should be designed in such a way so that it can maximize this signal to noise ratio. Fine. So let us move on to. Now this is the diagram that we will use to derive the value of this match filter impulse response, or H of t. Now this, I am considering this pulse signal G of t. Now G of t is same. Yes, it has a range. It is not range, but it should be greater than 1. The signal to noise ratio should be greater than 1. Okay, now this is the block diagram that we will be considering for deriving this value of H of t. Now please pay attention to the derivation part, because it is very long derivation and you have to understand it very clearly, each and every step. Okay, so first step. Now I am sending a pulse signal G of t. Now what is this pulse signal G of t? G of t is same as S of t in the previous diagram. That means I am sending Bi. After Bi, it has been converted into minus A and plus A. Then it has been sent to a pulse shaper, and the output of pulse shaper is G of t. So this is the pulse signal that I am sending. Here I am adding a noise. So noise is added with this G of t, and the signal which has been received in the receiver part is the X of t. That means X of t is a signal that is received in the receiver side, because this is the receiver portion. So X of t is the signal that is received in the receiver side. Now from this X of t, match filter decides what is the actual symbol, right? What is Y of t, and Y of t should resemble this G of t. Fine. So so from this diagram, from this portion, I can write X of t as G of t plus W of t. See, X of t is equals to G of t plus W of t, because noise is added. Okay, and where G of t is a pulse signal and W of t is a white noise with a variance of n0 of n0 by 2. Now we'll decide, we'll talk about this later on. So X of t is a signal which is received by the match filter, or we can say that the input of the match filter is X of t, which is a signal added with a noise. Fine. Now, what I am assuming, I am assuming that the receiver side knows or has the knowledge about the waveform. Now, knowledge about the waveform means it doesn't know which waveform has been sent, but it knows whether a square pulse will be sent, or a rectangular pulse will be sent, or a triangular pulse will be sent. That means the pattern of the waveform. So here I am sending a square waveform, so we can assume that the receiver knows that a square waveform will be sent. Okay, so we assume that the receiver has the knowledge of the waveform. So that means here the knowledge of the waveform means here waveform is square pulse, so the receiver knows a square pulse will come, not like a square pulse then a triangular pulse, but a square pulse will come. Okay, then the source of uncertainty is of course the noise, because noise we don't know what pattern it will generate. And what will be the function of this match filter? It should detect the signal in an optimum manner. Okay, so let's proceed to derive how to optimize it. Okay, now what will be the output of the match filter? Now see, this is y of t. So y of t, how can I write y of t? Y of t can be written as x of t convolution of h of t, right? Y of t can be written as x of t convolution of h of t. Yes or no? Please respond. Right. So since y of t is equals to x of t convolution h of t, fine, fine, fine. Come back, come back, come back to the slide. Okay, W of t, Tisha, W of t is noise. We are considering white noise. So instead of writing n of t, because we'll use n of t later on, so W of t means white noise. So W of t is noise, additive white noise. Okay, so y of t is equal to x of t convolution h of t. And what is x of t? X of t is g of t plus w of t, right? So I can write this part, g of t convolution of h of t plus w of t convolution of h of t. Yes or no? We can write this. Now what I am writing? I am writing g naught t. So that means g of t convolution of h of t can be written as g naught t, and w of t convolution of h of t can be written as n of t. Clear? So g of t, we can say this is the signal component. G of t can be uh, can be told, can be considered as the signal component. So g naught t is signal component. N of t is noise component. So far you have understood this. Have you understood this portion? Any questions so far? Yes, if you have question, please ask. Abhishek has a question. Please ask which question. Any question here? So g of t convolution h of t. We know pi of t is g of t plus w of t. So when it is convolution, then g of t convolution h of t and w of t convolution h of t. Okay, so I am proceeding. So now how we will design the match filter. So what should be our design? The design will be in such a way that it maximizes this signal component. Now this is the signal component and this is the noise component. So our design should be in such a manner that it maximizes this signal component and minimizes this noise component. Fine. So that means the impulse response of this match filter h of t will be such that it maximizes the power of g naught t and minimizes the power of n of t. Okay, so this is what we should design. So let's continue. So now, since this is our aim is to maximize the signal to noise ratio. So we can write this signal to noise ratio, peak pulse signal to noise ratio, as power of G naught T whole square. Now why I'm saying taking a magnitude, I only want the magnitude, not the uh, imaginary portion. So the magnitude of G naught T whole square will give me the power of the signal. And E, this E is known as expectation. Expectation means mean of different kinds of noise components. So expectation, E means expectation of noise. So n square T is noise component, G naught T is signal component, and this gives us signal to noise ratio. See, signal power divided by noise power, the signal to noise ratio. Fine. So this is our signal power, this is our noise power, and we have to design the match filter in such a way that it makes the value of eta greater than 1. Okay, so let us proceed with the design. So first I am considering the noise portion. Okay, so noise portion is given by Wt cross h of t. Okay, and now if I take Fourier transform, we can write the Fourier transform of this white noise as SW of A, and Fourier transform of the impulse response of h of t as sh of f. Now Fourier transform of any noise, since I am considering white noise, it has a bell curve like Gaussian distribution, so it is given by n0 of 2. So this n0 of 2, this is the fundamental frequency, and it is given by n0 of 2, and the Fourier transform of this h of t is given by h of square. Okay, so this is the Fourier transform of the noise portion, this is the Fourier transform of the match filter, and we don't know what is the value of this. We have to find this. Okay, and this is how this noise power spectrum looks that I was talking about. So this is AWG noise power spectrum. This is what it looks. All the frequency components from -f to +f are included. Okay, so we can consider this portion as the average noise power. So n0 by 2 hf whole square is the average noise power. Okay, understood so far? Why become square? Okay, so suppose I have a signal, sinusoidal signal A sine omega t. So if I need to find the power of that signal, I will only write A square. So that's why I need to find the power. Okay, so that's why it becomes square. So if I write magnitude G naught T whole square, it only takes the magnitude or the amplitude square. So amplitude of the square gives us the power of that signal. Okay, I hope so far it is clear. Let me proceed because time is very limited. Okay, now we'll, yeah, h of square because h of square means the impulse responses of the filter. Now, if you remember the impulse response of the filter, we have assumed it as a pulse of th. So when we take its Fourier transform, it will come as h of x whole square. Okay, so now let us take this signal portion. So this is our signal portion G naught T. So G naught T is equals to G of T convolution of H of T. So if I take its Fourier transform, it becomes G of F, H of F, right? So now that means we can also write, if I take the inverse Fourier transform of G of F, H of F, we can write G of T as, by this equation, H of F, G of F exponential of J 2 pi f t df. Since G of f is a square pulse, sinusoidal periodic waveform, right? So I can write this. Is it clear, this equation? The Fourier transform of GT HT is GF HF. Now if I take inverse Fourier transform of GF HF, I can write this in this form, G naught T in this form. I hope it is clear. Is it clear? Okay. Fine, fine, very good, very good. Okay, now come back to the slides. Now see, Now what I am doing, I am sampling the output of the match filter. Now output of the match filter is y of t. Now I'm sampling that output at a sample rate of t, right? At a sample rate of t. So what I will do, I will simply replace this small t with capital T, because I am taking each pulses at a time, right? So I can write this equation in this form. See, and I will get the power of each pulses. Since I'm sampling the output at a sampling time of t, that means t pulses at a time. So I will get power of each pulses at a time. So what I am doing, I am simply replacing this t with small t, which indicates that I am getting a sampled pulses, and I am taking the power of each signal. So I am getting the power of this signal, the samples in the output at every time instant t, capital T. Clear? Okay, so now I have the signal power, and already I have calculated the noise power. So I can write the signal to noise power as in this way, in this form, right? Yes or no? See, I have just got the value of g naught t whole square, and noise power I have already got n0 by 2 hf whole square. So I can write it in this manner. So now I have to find the value of h, so that it makes this signal to noise ratio maximum. So here everything is known. G of f is known, t is known, n0 we don't know, but we have approximated all the values. What is unknown is the value of h of f, right? So we have to find the value of h of f, and we have to make the value of h of f such that it maximizes this value eta. Okay, so let us find. So what I will do, I will use this Schwarz inequality to find the response of h of f. Now please look, this is the very important portion of the derivation. Without this you cannot find h of f. So what is Schwarz inequality? I am not going to derive this. I am simply write what is the result it is. Now Schwarz inequality, now say we have two functions, phi1x and phi2x, and which looks like this, phi1x square dx and phi2x square dx less than infinity, both of them. And if it satisfies this condition, it will satisfy this condition if this equality will hold if phi1x is equals to k times conjugate of phi2x. Now please see this equation very carefully. We have two complex functions, phi1x and phi2x, where phi1x square dx less than is infinity, phi2x square dx less than infinity. Now we can say that both of these power of these complex functions, and if they are in this form, phi1x dx, phi1x phi2x dx whole square, then we can write this multiplication, which can be equal to phi1x square dx, phi2x square dx. If this will become this will happen if phi1x is equals to k times conjugate of phi2x. Okay, so we'll use this inequality. I hope you have understood this inequality. Have you understood this inequality? Please respond. Okay, repeating once again. Now see, we have two functions, phi1 and phi2. Okay, both of them are complex functions, and I am considering, when I am writing this portion, phi1 x dx whole square, phi1 x square dx. Phi1 x square dx means power of this complex function phi1 x. Phi2 x whole square dx means power of this complex function phi 2x dx, and I am saying that their power is less than infinity. Less than infinity. Both of them power are less than infinity. Now, multiplication of phi 1x phi 2x whole square will be either less than or equal to phi 1x whole square dx into phi 2 of x square dx. That means I can write this product in this form if phi 1x is equals to k times conjugate of phi 2x. This is the only thing. So if we have two complex functions and I multiply and square them, then we can write them as individual square of those functions. But the condition is that they should be, one should be equal to the conjugate of the other. Okay, this is the only portion in this inequality. Clear? Okay, so let me proceed. So now if we see, now see this portion phi 1x phi 2x dx whole square. See, phi 1x phi 2x dx whole square is similar to this portion. See, hf gf exponential j2 pi f df whole square is similar. So what I will do, I will use Schwarz inequality in the numerator side. Okay, so I will use Schwarz inequality in the numerator side in this way. So this is our Schwarz inequality. So see, phi 1x phi 2x dx whole square. So what I will do, I will consider phi 1x as h of f, phi 2x as g of f exponential j2 pi f t, like this. So setting phi 1x as h of f and phi 2x as g of exponential j2 pi f t in the numerator of this signal to noise ratio, I can write this. Now I can break this equation, see, in the form of h of f whole square df, g of f whole square df. Clear? Clear? Okay. So now I will put this value. So instead of this, I will write this value in the numerator of signal to noise ratio. So now see, this is signal to noise ratio, g of t whole square by expectation. This came this value. Now I am writing this one using this inequality, h of f whole square, g of f whole square. So instead of writing this, I am writing this one. Okay. So what happens? H of f gets cancelled, and we can write this signal to noise ratio as 2 by n0 g of f whole square. Now see, very important here, if you notice, this peak signal to noise ratio doesn't depend on the impulse response of the match filter. See, the signal to noise ratio doesn't depend on the impulse response of the match filter, but it depends on the exponential part. Okay, exponential part, since we are taking only the amplitude portion of the signal, so we have excluded exponential part. Now exponential j2 pi f t will give the sinusoidal portion, and I am only taking the amplitude portion. Amplitude portion gives us the power. That's why I have not taken the j2 pi f t. See, I have taken only the magnitude part, not the phase one. Okay. So if we see the signal to noise ratio very carefully, we see that the signal to noise ratio only depends on the signal component, not on the impulse response of the h of f. Okay. But since I've used this inequality has a condition, and the condition is that g of f should be, or the h of f should be conjugate of the signal component, since phi 1x is equal to k times conjugate of phi 2x. So that means now I can write that eta will be maximum when we choose an optimum value of h of f. Okay, and that optimum value of h of f can be possible if the equality of this one holds, or equality of the Schwartz equality holds. That means this we can write now that this is the maximum value of the signal to noise ratio when we can decide upon this optimum value of h of f. Okay, and how we can find this optimum value of h of f? It should meet the condition of the Schwartz inequality, which is phi 1x equals to k times conjugate of phi 2x. So that means we can write this as h of f as h optimum. So I can write this in this way: h optimum f is equal to k times g conjugate f exponential minus j 2 pi ft. Clear? And if I take inverse transform of this inverse Fourier transform, I can write h of t as k g t minus t. So this is the value of this match filter. So what we see, that the match filter value is a delayed version of the signal, incoming signal g of t. It is the delayed version of the incoming signal of the incoming signal. So match filter has an impulse response which is the delayed version of the incoming signal. Clear?